I am more morally outraged than my fellow Americans are defending them, are protesting every major city right now, saying Hamas is good and screaming from the river to the sea. That is beyond the pale of what I really hope for my country. I mean, I can't believe it. And the people who are doing this, and this is what I wish my Democrat friends, especially my Jewish Democrat friends, understood, the people who, a lot of them championed during Black Lives Matter and Occupy Wall Street and Bernie Sanders rallies, are these people.
In other words, what Hamas did to people, so evil that I don't even want to repeat it on the air. And that's what's interesting to me. I keep saying it's like if you have a cause, right? And everybody says, well, this is a cause, the Palestinian people. Okay, great. You have a cause. How are you going to behave? How did Martin Luther King Jr. behave? How did he lead his people? What Hamas did to me, it ends the conversation. I don't want to hear one word about the Palestinians. When your gang does what they did, it's like game over. People need to go to jail or die for what Hamas did, and then we'll talk after. Where am I wrong, or is there? How do you see this playing out? Because when you confront what they did, it's not a wartime thing. It's not like they sent a missile and people died. No, this was really like
it was torture,
focused torture, murder of innocents. Wanton cruelty. What is your sense of the situation with Israel right now? I guess I find it fascinating that because Hamas did such wicked, sick, cruel, satanic things, like really evil things, I'm just fascinated that anybody who's concerned about the Palestinians would even open their mouths at this point. It's like you'd think that they would just go hide in shame.
Well, I mean, that doesn't surprise me that some people are concerned about humanitarian things because there's always that kind of person. But I'm not sadly shocked that the Palestinians did what they did. I am beyond angry that there are Americans right now protesting that they are good people for doing what they did. The fact that groups like Black Lives Matter, the fact that far left activists are sitting there and in some cases openly celebrating Hamas committing acts of terrorism, in other times just benightly defending them at any given chance. And I'm doing something I've never done before. I don't usually call people when a big global thing happens saying, how's this affecting you? But I've called a lot of my Jewish friends saying, how are you okay? Because I'm not okay. And if I'm not okay, you must not be okay either.
Yeah.
And you almost think of yourself as a non-Israeli, as a non-Jew. Am I saying enough? Am I doing enough? What can I do? Because I am more morally outraged than my fellow Americans are defending them, are protesting every major city right now, saying Hamas is good and screaming from the river to the sea. That is beyond the pale of what I really hope for my country. I mean, I can't believe it. And the people who are doing this, and this is what I wish my Democrat friends, especially my Jewish Democrat friends, understood, the people who, a lot of them championed during Black Lives Matter and Occupy Wall Street and Bernie Sanders rallies, are these people. They hate you if you're American, they hate you if you're Israeli, they hate you if you're Jewish, they hate you if you're Christian, they hate you if you're a capitalist, they hate you if you're white. It is one versus the other. There is almost no difference. These people hate any form of civilization in this world, especially Western civilization. And unless you realize that they are your enemy through and through, that they cannot be compromised with in any way, they can't be placated, and they must be, the roots must be ripped out from all the universities and the institutions where they control. And if you don't realize that now, you're never going to, because there's no way that they're ever going to sit there and move on this. They genuinely believe every one of the people in those kinds of groups are wicked, are evil, and they wouldn't mind destroying anybody, irregardless of who they are. And Jewish Democrats better wake the hell up and realize what they are up against and what they supported during Black Lives Matter and Bernie Sanders and all the rest of it. It is the same exact people, and they will be there again when the next atrocity happens.
Well, and for me, this is where you begin to see. You don't need to see it, but I think many people begin to see that it's a spiritual issue, because it makes no human sense. Why would these people be against every good thing. In other words, it'd be one thing if you have an honest disagreement on something and you wrestle and you say, well, I'm not with you on this, I'm with it. But they seem to be against freedom, America. It really is an extraordinary thing because you try to puzzle it out. How can that be? I mean, it's kind of like, when the Nazis were dedicated to murdering every Jew. How do you talk to those people?
Right.
Do you talk to them? No, you don't talk to them. You must defeat them militarily because we're beyond talking.
Yeah, but we imported those people is the problem. America, through our immigration, our legal, not illegal, our legal immigration system, mass immigration, imported that ideology here. All of Western Europe did. There is almost no way we're not going to be starting, executing our own Americans. There is no way of stopping that ideology now that, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Now, what do you, I guess I'm not really clear exactly on what you mean by this. There are people on campuses, there have always been nuts. I mean, there have always been,
But those aren't the children of the American Revolution. Those are Arab children, first-generation immigrants or immigrants themselves. Those are the children of Ilhan Omar, if she had children. But those were her children. Those aren't white liberals, all of them. A lot of them are first-generation Arab Americans who imported their hate here. This is not...
I guess that's what I'm not familiar with. You're saying this is like in places like Detroit particularly, or where do we see
the Detroit
this?
suburbs were celebrating openly.
Yeah.
I mean, they were celebrating. Times Square, I would say half to three-quarters were Arab. I mean, it's not even funny. In Brooklyn, yesterday or 2 days ago, it was in the Arab community at Bay Ridge, huge celebrations for Hamas. This was all imported, this hatred towards Israelis and towards Jews. Our immigration system has huge ramifications. I always say it's the most important issue because it affects every other issue. The further we continue our legal immigration the way we have it now, the less pro-Israel America will be in its future. Yeah. You import 40 million more Arabs over the next 20 years, and you have huge constituencies that are openly pro-Hamas.
Now, we have to be clear, this is not a racial thing because there are plenty of Arabs that don't go along with this. This is a cultural thing. It's an ideological thing. So what we're talking about, to my mind, in other words, it's one thing to bring in people who are anti-Semitic, right? But the real issue is whenever anybody comes into America, our job is to make them Americans, genuine Americans, that buy into our value system.
Right.
And that's what we have failed to do for 50 plus years. In other words, that we let people in and we don't really say to them, this is what it means to be an American. We say to them, come on in and, you can bring in
bring in 1.1 million a year, which is what we bring in legally without the illegals, it's very difficult to do that when you're in such a mass consumption. We have double the amount that came in 1999. We have quadrupled the amount that came in 1979. So at such a high level, when it's like Fantasia with the water and you're trying to clip it up with buckets, how do you eventually do it? Especially when the institutions of assimilation are of the radical left. Right. The colleges, the universities, the media. So they are assimilating. They're just assimilating to woke, white libtard nonsense. Yeah. And that is even more problematic. You could deal with it, and you could deal with it when it's a smaller level. When it's a mass level like this, you can't really deal with it, and you can't tolerate it. And we've doubled our Muslim American population since 9/11. We doubled it. That is remarkable choice that a nation decides to do when a specific sect of a religion declares war on all the Western world. And that's going to be problematic into the future.
Well, I have to say that already when I was in college in the 80s, you could see this. This was already happening. You had Jesse Jackson chanting, hey, hey, ho, ho, Western Civ has got to go. And you thought, wow. So Aristotle, Plato, Homer, who else? Aquinas, Shakespeare, all of that stuff. Somehow you're at odds with that. Right. So what do you propose to replace that? And what they propose, they hardly know. but it is toxic lunacy.
Yeah, it's critical theory mixed with race-based critical theory. They want to have what failed nation states have across the entire world, and they never blame the ideology. It's always how it's practiced. It's all nonsense. It's all bad, and you can't compromise with it. The one good thing that has come from all of this horrible things, both in Israel and in America, is these billionaires are finally pulling some of their money from these universities.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, about time. What were you waiting for?
I've been saying this for years, that anybody foolish enough to give a dime to almost any university, but especially Yale or Harvard or any of these places, like, you might as well hand your money to the devil. Like, it is absolute. I can't think of a worse thing you could possibly do with your money. But people, because they don't know anything really, they just want to get their name on a building, or they want to get some street cred with their fellow elitists, that they're giving money. And what's being done with that money, but this is going back decades and decades, it's not a new thing, and it has to go this far that finally, some billionaire Jewish businessman says, okay, I guess maybe I'm not going to give money to Harvard.
Yeah.
But so on some level, this is where I see good coming out of this, that things have gotten so sick that people who would normally never wake up are actually waking up.
Yeah, I hope that. And, we have a lot of elections coming up in November for local things, like school boards, which is my big issue, but also for the Virginia legislature, for the New Jersey legislature, for the New York City Council, for small elections locally. And it's going to be small. It's going to be very low turnout. If Jewish Americans woke up, even though they are small in numbers, they're high in certain densities, they could absolutely wake everybody up if they were to do surprise.
I tell you, with anti-Semitism at this level, ladies and gentlemen, boy, now's the time to wake up.